What is truth, and how do we find truth in a world of deception? Are there biblical truths about our world and our lives that we can trust? And who are the key players in the end times? What does the Bible say about the Middle East, Iran, China, and Russia? And is there proof for what Scripture says? What do recent archaeological exploration tell us about the Bible? Who were the Anunnaki? What are angels, demons, and the Nephilims? Will the Nephilims return? Are there interdimensional beings, and how do they relate to the Bible? Stick around as we dive into Scripture for more answers in this episode of Mission Truth.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Mission Truth in our palatial studios.
Yeah.
Nice and renovated. We're excited about what we're being able to use here.
Yeah. Go ahead and touch something so they know that we're not just using a green screen. No, the screen. There we go.
It's real.
It's real.
It's real stuff. It's not a green screen.
Yeah, we're fancy.
But as usual, in our episodes, we want to bring up a question, and then we're going to try to guide you to the truth. That's how we roll around these parts. And the question that we're dealing with, or statement, Nick and I had a little bit of discussion here, but the question is, are politics becoming a religion?
Or a substitute for religion?
Or a substitute. I wouldn't even call it a substitute. I just call it straight religion at this point.
All right, we'll go with that.
And then another, if we're making a statement, is that the religion of politics is real.
Yep.
Would be the statement, if we're going to ask a statement. So I just want to dive straight into it, and I just wanted to kind of define two words as to how we're going to go about this discussion. The first word is, or I guess I could say the first question, what is a cult? Because we want to try to define these specific areas that kind of give us a general idea of what we're looking at, and how do we define a religion, or how do we define what politics is becoming. So I'm trying to get to the root of it. So I'm just going to, we're going to start at the very edge of religious practices
and talk about
cults. Okay, so just the definition of a cult: a relatively small group of people having beliefs or practices, especially relating to religion. Of course, religion is a part of cult, that are regarded by others as strange or sinister, sounds like politics to me, or as imposing excessive control over members. Wow.
Okay, so what are the key components here that you just went through, since there was a lot there?
Yeah, there is a lot there. So small group of people.
Relatively small
group of people. And they have beliefs or practices, and we'll skip the part
that people consider strange or weird.
Yes, that people consider strange
or out of the norm.
Sinister, that's a good one.
Oh, sinister. Okay.
And imposing excessive control over members. Okay, that's a cult. Now we are going to then need to define religion. And so the definition of religion, as it is stated in the worldwide interwebs: the belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods. I don't necessarily believe that definition. Nick, why don't you kind of expound that a little bit for us there?
Well, the term religion comes from the Latin root religulate, or religate, however you say it. It's the root term from where we get the word ligature, which is is something that you use to bind, and the word means to bind back. So to read ligulos or religion means to bind back, or to bind together. And the concept behind that is that religion teaches us how to bind ourselves back to God, or to the universe, or whatever the source of humanity is in your worldview. So that's kind of what the base term religion means. Is it's just humans' attempt to bind itself back to its creator, is in very in simple terms, and then of course it takes whatever forms, whether that be Christianity, or whether it be Near Eastern mysticism, or
any Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism.
I mean, however you define what
environmentalism.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that one actually, because I think that heavily ties into the political aspect of it.
So very interesting when you look at the base root of the word and then what our dictionary actually says. A little bit of a difference there, in my opinion. Of course, we know what opinions are, but so with that in mind, and with what a cult is, so then I go and look at what are some cults that we know of that we can kind of compare and contrast to politics.
Cult wise, I mean, you want to go. I mean, obviously, we could talk about like the traditional David Koresh type stuff.
Could do that. Who was the
or
Kool-Aid?
the Moonies? The Moonies.
Who were the Kool-Aid drinkers? I can't remember.
That was John. No,
cannot remember his name.
Jim Jones. Jim Jones. Yes.
Jim Jones.
There's actually that's an interesting documentary if you ever watch it, because
right.
There's a lot of evidence that they were forced to drink that Kool-Aid. They didn't do it of their own
Who
free
knows
will.
the truth?
But anyway, that's kind of ancillary to what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and then of course you can go to a very broad definition and start actually including some of the religions today that I would consider a cult.
Yeah, we don't want to step on too many toes.
Yeah,
but we can use how they practice.
Yeah.
So we'll take into account how do they go about their business? How do they practice? Right. So when you look
I'll go ahead and pull Scientology out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about.
We'll go ahead and go with
Scientology. Yeah, y'all can sue us if you want to. We ain't got no money, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So,
I'm sure we're high on their list.
We're high on their list there. But give us some examples of how Scientology operates that would be considered a little cultish.
Well, I mean, they have the requirement to give a certain amount of money. I mean, it's not even really a suggestion. They force their members to contribute. Is actually a part of their leveling up, so to speak, I guess is the best term. I don't know a ton about Scientology outside of just what you hear
the rumor
in
mill.
Mainstream.
Yeah.
They do have some pretty wacky ideas about as far as thetans and where they come from and all that stuff. So that's kind of one of those things. But I don't really know enough about it to speak super intelligently about it.
When we were kids, I'm not going to say when that was, but don't you remember those commercials on TV? Dianetics.
Yeah.
By L. Ron Hubbard. I used to think it was a self-help book. Apparently, it's
it kind of is.
Yeah, it's the basis for Scientology.
I mean, it is a self-help book in as much as I guess a religion has a self-help book. I don't know. We have a lot of them in Christianity too, but
yes.
But I guess
doesn't exactly make it the basis for the foundation of the religion. But the other thing was with Scientology. We'll it's a relatively small group of people.
Yeah, mostly concentrated in Clearwater, Florida. And
they use their, I guess you could say their control over their members. Basically, you have to behave this way in order to get either help from us or for doors to open for you. I mean, I've seen interviews with because they're very integrated into Hollywood. I've seen interviews with people
Leah Remini.
Well, she's one that left.
She's the one that left.
I'm talking about those that have been in the group and then they all of a sudden are like, well, I asked this, in Scientology, I needed this to happen and it happened. They have a lot of influence and they let these doors open for their members to help them be successful.
Right.
Kind of a cultish practice, if you don't ask, if you're asking, but another cult.
So let's kind of contrast that with and I don't want to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but with something like the Masonic temples and stuff like that.
The Masons,
because they're not. So we would consider Scientology sort of overtly religious, and they have a religious text and they kind of believe in this idea of salvation, but they really function more as somewhat in some ways kind of a social club to advance. And so you see Masonic in some ways doing some of the same things in terms of like brotherhood and trying to kind of help each other out and sort of put people in leadership positions and things like that. So
that's one that,
and that's kind of on the political spectrum. I just kind of
it
wanted
has,
to kind of throw that out
and
there.
it's kind of I think it's changed over time as well. When you look into the history of the Masons and where did it originally started as, and that's one of those. It acts cultish because it's very closed.
Yeah,
members are very tight-lipped about what happens in there, in those meetings. They act like a club. If you ever know one, it's either you're in or you're out. And it seems to be a small group of people controlling who knows what. We're not really sure. But whether that's the case or not, it's not open. It's not on the open.
Yeah. It just came to mind because it sort of fits with this. They tend to be politically driven. In other words, a lot of their members tend to be very politically active. So I think it becomes a relevant part of kind of what we're going to talk about later. Not necessarily just the Masons, but just that kind of idea that there are, because I think we're gonna talk a lot about maybe some of the people or the side of this where they're actually substituting politics for religion, but I think there's also a side of it where you have people who maybe be spiritual but also sort of commandeer, politics as maybe not a religion itself, but as a part of their religion. And I think so. Just to be fair to both sides, I don't.
Well, we also use that word cult of personality.
Yeah.
What does that mean? We can get into that discussion, but one thing I also want to bring into kind of looking at the comparison of politics and religion. Okay, so let's take a religion. I'm not going to say which one, but let's take a religion and people within this religion, and maybe you'll figure it out, maybe you won't. You have to pray a certain number of times a day. Mm-hmm. You have to follow a specific religious law. Mm-hmm. And if you leave the religion, nobody from that religion can ever speak to you again. Family members, friends, you completely ostracized. So it keeps you entrapped in that religion. And it's not necessarily a small group of people, but the way they operate is that it keeps you under control.
Right.
And similarly, another religion that's based here in the States, it takes a bit of truth and kind of twists it a little bit.
Yeah.
Centrally controlled, and you have to do. You won't get into heaven unless you go out and do these certain things that they require. A little bit of a cultish activity.
Which one of those are you talking about? Because I can think of two off the top of my head. So kind of fit that.
Yeah. So either one. I'm not going to say which one. I don't want to offend, but I'm just saying the way that they that they act, the way that they go about with the religion. Because so you compare it to we're both Christians, and we've said this before on another episode. We're Bible believing Christians. That's why we do this. We believe the Bible is the Word of God, and that when you look at Christianity and the way it operates, it's different than any other religion in the world. And the fact that you can follow it and adhere to its principles, but it's not required. Like, you don't have a centralized control organization demanding you to do these things. If you're a Bible-believing Christian, you're trying to follow the edicts of Christ and trying to follow the examples of Jesus to make your life better. But it's not a requirement. It's not like if you do these things, then this will happen, because in Christianity, it's grace. Grace is the only thing that covers you. You can't do anything to earn salvation.
What we call the finished work of Christ.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you compare the other ones that I'm talking about, when you're centrally controlled, and of course, if you look at the history of Christianity, there have been abuses of Christianity, and where a certain organization may be controlling it and using it for money and using it for any other excuse to exert political power. So it has been abused. That is true in the past, but as a whole, it's different than any other religion.
Right. And it's also, I think it's fundamentally important to point out that it is based on a historical event as well.
Yes.
As Paul says, it says, if Christ is not raised, then our faith is or our hope is in vain.
Yes, it is in vain.
And so I think that's the one, more than anything, I think that's the most differentiating factor about Christianity, about evangelical Christianity, is that it is based upon a historical event that happened, and whether that event actually happened or not. And if it did happen, then Jesus has proven that he has the authority over everything else. So,
right.
I think people forget that. They get into all these other arguments about, well, they don't like the fact that maybe God seems a little overbearing in the Old Testament. None of that really matters if Jesus actually did what he said he did.
Yeah.
What is written down, because that.
Right.
But anyway, that's my little measure of the gospel in the middle of all of this discussion.
Yes, of religion. We're just trying to get a basis of religion here. So let's turn the corner. Now, we've kind of put our basis here,
all right,
as far as what a religion is, what a cult is. So let's look at modern-day politics. All right?
Right.
I am seeing a very disturbing trend. This is kind of what brought up the question in my mind of people that have been friends for years.
Yeah, this is...
Friends for years and been through hell and back. So many things.
Not just them, family members too.
Yes, family members. And they will basically excommunicate somebody because of who they voted for. Whether it be a Republican or a Democrat, those are the two main parties that we're talking about here in the United States. In other parts of the country or other parts of the world, it's kind of a different animal. But there's one thing I've never really fully understood. You've got people who are literally yelling at each other on the streets over who knows what, and yet it really makes zero difference in the scheme of things. I've said this to friends of mine and said, I don't care who you vote for, because the only time you can make any difference is when you actually go vote. And once you vote, because we're a representative republic, talking about it really doesn't do much. I mean, you can have discussions, and I will listen to what you have to say. I'm not going to probably agree with you, but I'm not going to say you're stupid because you don't see my point. And I'm seeing that more and more often now, where you have such divisions where if you don't believe this, you're stupid. Or if you don't believe this, you're burning the world down. It makes no sense.
So I guess the question is, why is it so polarizing? I mean, we kind of know. I mean, you've heard the old adage, two things you don't talk about: religion and politics.
Two things I talk about all the time.
But yeah, go figure. But it seems like for a long time, religion was the worst of the two, as far as like really pitting people against one another.
Right.
And now it's becoming increasingly, as you've stated, that politics is very much catching up. And I think that's where you get to the root of the question that you're asking is you're starting to get the same emotional attachment to
right
to politics. And so the question is, why are we getting that emotional attachment to politics?
And if you have an emotional attachment to something, that means you care about it.
Yeah.
That means in religion, you worship that thing.
Yeah. But why do we care so much? Like, what's the fundamental reason that we care so much about religions, so to speak?
Well,
because I think it's a rhetorical question in a lot of ways. I was going to answer it, I guess. But in my view, I think it's because the nature of our future depends upon how we view religion. In other words, we have a very defined views of what happens when life ends and what happens, what we believe is the afterlife. And that has real implications for people who don't believe like us, right? And a Muslim would say the same thing. A Hindu would say the same thing. Maybe to varying degrees in the Near Eastern religions, because they tend to be a little more
similar.
Well, they tend to be more allowable to like other ways of thinking. They kind of but I think the point I'm trying to make is we get in all honesty, we get really attached to what we believe is true, and when somebody doesn't agree with that, it can lead to butting of heads because we have very different worldviews. Now let's move this to politics now. Specifically, let's go ahead and talk about the left side of politics, because I think there are people on the right who might consider themselves atheists and are pragmatically like more conservative because they just kind of believe that that's the way things would go. But I would think, in my experience, people who are more atheistic typically lean left, if not are significantly on the left side. And so you have to kind of think, well, if you don't believe in a God and you don't believe in an afterlife, well, then which life do you have to make better? You have to make this life the best you can, provide the most freedom and the most, freedom, to provide the most comfort and fun in this life. And what's the only conduit you really have to do that with? It's through government, through the political, because you're trying to enact laws that give you that freedom or that ability to kind of pursue your own happiness, which is, what we were what we were founded on. But it also releases you from a lot of the obligations that you have to other people. Because when you think about how the United States specifically was founded, it was founded in such a way that it was to grant liberty to people, but also to provide responsibility to those who you live with. There was a sort of a tension that existed between your individual liberty and the responsibility that you have to the people who live around you. And I think you lose that responsibility when you don't have a religious context in some respects. Now, some people will argue and say they care about their fellow man, and that's all fine and good, but I don't think you also don't have a fundamental basis for equality, which is what some people don't realize when you get past religion, but that gets into a different conversation. But I think that's kind of the overarching kind of view I have of religion and politics, I guess, or how politics is starting to become a religion.
So to build off of kind of what you were talking about there, I also have this view where you've got most of us in the middle.
Right.
You have the extreme left and the extreme right. If we're looking at two polarized areas here, left and right. You have a small group of people over here. You have a small group of people over here. The fascinating thing is that they're both trying to gain control of the government to force other people to do what they want them to do.
Yeah.
They both have the same goals, and yet they're constantly fighting with each other for control.
Yeah.
To then tell other people what to do. It sounds like a cult to me when you look at the definition that we have of a cult.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
a political
good point.
it's a political cult because I want to use the power of the government to make you do what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And that's what we're fighting. So we got everybody here in the middle. They're trying to go about their lives and build what they have and continue to follow the American dream. Well, here in America. But then you just have these extremist groups that are like, no, we want control and we want you to have to do this. We want you to have to do this. And the crazy thing is like when you look at both sides, like the extremes on both sides, they're really not that far apart, which is crazy.
No, many people have actually likened it to a circle. where the two
Yeah,
extremes are really right
left,
next
left
to each
and right
other.
or up here. It's like one of those bracelets that end with two little.
There's
balls
not.
on top.
Let's just use the buzzwords that are common here: fascism and socialism. They're not that far apart from one
communism.
another. In fact, communism. Yeah, let's do communism, and they're not really that far apart. In fact, half the time people don't even know the difference between fascism and communism, which but they both sort of have the same goals through different modes of control.
And so, they
were even on the same side in World War II.
No, they weren't.
Well, no, they weren't. But that was
because Italy and
they were both fascist. But then the communists. Well, no, they were because Russia was originally on Germany's side, and then Germany attacked Russia, and Russia, flipped over. And
of course, and then you have Japan, which was imperialism, and they believed the emperor was a god. They worshipped him like a god instead of a political figure. So when I look at the actions of individuals, and you were talking earlier about how politics has kind of taken the place of religion in this day and age.
For some people.
And I think that has a lot to do with Christianity in America reached its peak in the 1960s. And over the next 20 or 30 years, it kind of started to transition. And in my mind, if you were trying to advance in the workplace, you had to go to church.
Yeah.
Because that's where your boss was. That's where your coworkers went. And so you might not necessarily have...
It's still that way in some places.
It is still that way in some places too. But I can see the transition. So they were passionate about what was going on at church, and that's where you have all these crazy things that happened in the church back in the day. But now that they realize, hey, I don't need church anymore to get what I want, now they're pivoting over to politics. So
that's a good point. Yeah,
it's one of those things where
that's a good observation.
I'm not having to be religious, quote, to get what I want. I need to use politics to get what I want.
So you think it's much more pragmatic than even like something soulish about us that needs to be attached to some sort of mode of salvation of our species or ourselves? Or
you made a good point about atheists. Okay, and I'm seeing more and more of a line to where a lot on the of course the political lines are so blurred anymore.
Yeah,
you go back and look in history, and like the beliefs on both sides, they've just flip-flopped throughout history.
Well, because it's a power struggle.
Yeah, it's a power struggle, and I think that
you take the opposition position.
Yeah,
in order to get so if they go this way, you got to go back, and then
and
so that's what happens.
I'll just take today this right now. What's going on? Fascinating example. A guy in the Senate called John Fetterman. I'm sure you know who John Fetterman is. Okay. The fascinating thing about him is that when he got elected, he had just come off a stroke. Nobody even really knew who he was.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't even speak, and somehow he still won election. And I was like, who votes for a guy who can't even say? Fascinating. I'm a big fan of John Fetterman because I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but he's common sense.
Yep.
He says this is right, and we're missing that, especially on the Democrat side of the aisle. There's so many people that don't say this is the right thing to do. They thought, well, what's the party line? And to me, that sounds like, well, what's the religious line I have to follow? What do I have to do to get my reward?
Well, so you have so let's just talk about the elements of religion for a minute. You have saints. You have a certain dogma that you adhere to.
Right.
You have holy scriptures or books that you have to do. And you see all this stuff within politics now.
Yes, that's true.
You have this dogma that you have to be a part of in order to be in a certain... And that's not just on the left.
No, it's not. It's on the right as well.
You gotta adhere to all these tenets. And if not, congratulations. Now you've broken yourself up into another term. So you have MAGAs and you have Never Trumpers,
the
the neocons, and then you've got the on the left side you've got
the communists,
the squad, Antifa, all and so you've got what are really sub-denominations of conservatism and liberalism.
You could take that tree that
you have your patron saints on both sides. I mean, Trump on one side, and then you've got Jesse Jackson, bless his heart, just passed away.
I would be like Reagan, or that would be your saints.
Yeah, but you've also got like some people treat Marx that way, or Che Guevara, or they're
crazy to me.
And then you've got your sacred texts.
Yep.
The Constitution, the Federalist Papers, what's on the other side? You've got I wouldn't say Mein Kampf. I don't know if reading that.
I don't know. Sometimes.
But the Communist Manifesto, Darwin.
Yes.
Yes. Science, I think, is a very big one on the left. Environmentalism. Okay, yeah. You made that. So you're seeing a lot of crossings. You're seeing a lot of similarities in traditionally what the things you find in religion are showing up in politics, and they're no longer just part of the ethos of that side. They're actually like referenced heavily and treated dogmatically, where you can't question
science.
Things.
The whole. Yeah. I am not a climate change believer. Okay. Not human climate change. No, I don't believe that at all. The climate has always changed. Yeah. I do believe that we can have, if we're not good stewards, you can have a local effect of climate change. I'll bring up the idea of like the I think it was the Incas. The Incas were in Central America, where they did a lot of deforestation, and all of their what's the word for their water in holes? They got a special word for it.
I don't know. It was also the Mayans. It's also the Mayans.
The Mayans, but the cenotes. But their climate changed because they cut down so many trees that there became a drought, and that's why everything grew up, because they had to leave the area because they ran out of water. Same thing in American West. Okay, I don't think that they had an issue where they were cutting down a bunch of trees. It's an arid area anyway, but their water source dried up, and that's why you have the cliff dwelling there in Mesa Verde in New Mexico. Okay. You know what I mean? And they just left.
Because like the Dust Bowl is a very good example.
That's a good example of
human.
We did not manage the ground well, and it created. But we came back and we corrected.
But I think what you're saying is there's limits to what we can do as what we can impact.
Correct. And
have you seen this thing? This is kind of off the wall, but have you seen this thing where there's a company now wanting to put these big mirrors in orbit?
Yes.
And then
have you seen the movie? There's a Highlander movie where they do the exact that exact.
And they're wanting to charge for like sunlight at night, like they can turn. And I'm like, what are you going to do to the surface of the planet when you start adding extra heat through? I don't know. It's kind of funny. Then you might actually start having some serious.
But again,
we can mess with the weather.
It would be localized. It's localized.
Yeah. And this is not to say that we shouldn't be environmentally friendly and that we shouldn't try to do things, but we have to balance being environmentally friendly with actually making it so that humanity can actually live in a meaningful way on the planet. And some of them have gone so far as to say that we need to get rid of a large section, if not all of humanity.
I know, and that's because of this. And that's another religion that goes with that, because
we lived right close to something that went boom boom a couple of years ago.
Yes, thankfully it's gone.
See, I was born in Elberton, so I know all about the Georgia Guidestones.
Prime example, what you were saying. It is good to be environmentally friendly, but some of these technologies they're saying are great for the environment are horrible for the environment. I'll take windmills for a prime example. Okay, everybody's talking about it takes more energy to actually produce one of those things than it will ever make in its lifetime. And then you realize once those blades, they have a lifespan. They get they're fiberglass. Do you know what they do with them? They bury them in the ground in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Is that environmentally friendly? I don't think so.
Well, wait till we start burying all these batteries from these electric cars too.
The nice thing is that
Or
you
recycle.
can
I know we
recycle the
them,
batteries,
but
which is great.
To a point.
Well, nuclear waste.
Yeah.
We can recycle nuclear waste, but we don't do it. We build Yucca Mountain to bury it. That just doesn't make any sense. So it's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's a religion because people are fighting for the planet. Captain Planet, remember that back in the day? He's our hero. You ever watch that?
Yeah, I do. I remember Captain Planet.
Yeah, my parents didn't let me really want to watch it. I watched a couple episodes. It was really bad. But that whole movement has a political line to it because and with all of these things we're talking about, even in religion back in the day, it all boils down to where's the power.
Yeah. That would be one of the main, I think, critiques of religion from the non-religious people is that it is as much a power struggle as anything else.
Right.
Which I think is what makes Christianity, the teachings of Christ, I'll say, unique is that it was never about power for him.
Right.
And even, I would even go so far as to say, like Paul, it was never about power for Paul. And I don't know how he got to where Christianity has gotten to over the centuries, millennia, but it's really not. We know, I'm just going to say it, Islam is as much about power as anything else. Their stated goal is to bring the entire planet under Islamic rule.
Yeah.
So
which has been
you
shown,
can't deny that's
shown
power.
throughout history. Our first as a country, the U.S.'s first basically international incident where we were involved in another country was the where you get the song for the Marines. The Tripoli, the leathernecks. I mean, they had leather protecting their necks against the swords because of the Barbary pirates. And Thomas Jefferson or Ben Franklin, I can't remember which one, went over there and actually asked them, please stop looting our ships and raiding our ships. He says, what gives you the right to do that? And he says, well, because our God tells us to do it.
Right. And so I didn't want to jump off on that. It was just the point being is that
history tells us that's what they've always done.
And, I guess religion has been used to as a struggle for power in all parts of the world for millennia. I think that's one of the difficult parts about it. Really kind of talking about it is because you do have that sort of hanging over you. Right. But it doesn't mean that a religion's not true. And I've always heard the term you never judge a religion by its abuse. You judge it by its tenets.
Yeah.
When its abuses align with its tenets, then you can make a justification for why religion maybe shouldn't be practiced. But if your abuse is out of line with the tenets, I think you can say, well, that's just an abuse of religion. So
I think we kind of just covered everything quite well here. So we're going to go back to our original question now. Again, I'll bring up. We have a truth meter.
Yeah.
I can't remember it.
Well,
we have a truth meter, and let me pull up our truth meter here so I can get it.
Got it.
I've got it here somewhere.
Well, the first one, you have.
It's all P's.
Proven.
Proven.
Yes, 5 and then you have
proven.
Plausible.
Probable. Probable is 4. Probable is 4. Plausible is 3. Plausible deniability is 2.
And preposterous. I can't do the Daffy Duck thing.
I'd have to have water.
Not without spitting all over you.
Yeah, that too. That's our truth scale. So it's just a 5 point. And so the statement that we said at the beginning of our broadcast was, is politics becoming a religion? Or what was it?
Politics is becoming a religion.
Politics is a religion.
Yeah.
Not just is politics becoming, but politics is a religion. And if I'm looking at this truth scale and I can't go anywhere other than it's proven fact at this point
Yeah.
in time that politics
has become a religion. For
is
some
a religion.
People.
It is a religion.
It is a religion.
I know people that watch the news
On both
religiously.
sides.
Oh, yes. I'm not talking about one side of the aisle or
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah.
And it has all of the hallmarks of what you've seen in the past of what has been done with religion is now moving its way or has moved its way.
And so here's the interesting thing here. What does the Bible ultimately tell us about religion and politics in the end times? What's going to happen to them?
Why don't you lighten this?
They're going to combine in the persons of what? The Antichrist and the false prophet. And that there will be a one world religion that will run the world.
Exactly.
So both religiously and politically. So are we seeing the melding of those two together?
And therein could be a hint of a future episode of Mission Truth.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Of what that could entail. But
By the way, if you have something you want, a specific question you want to ask, please email us. That gives us new episodes to. I mean, we're going to do episodes regardless, but we'd rather do episodes that are interesting to the people who are watching than necessarily just interesting to us.
So I need to
and did you see my snazzy?
I need to email us.
Did you see my snazzy T-shirt?
Yeah, and we do.
Oh yeah, you got your.
I got mine.
He's got
I got the polo one.
He's got the white collar. I've got the blue collar.
We do have merch. Oh, and I've got. You know what? I can show this too. We also have. I don't know if we have any of these yet. We have swag. This is a Mission Truth keychain. Probably can't see it too well on camera.
Yeah,
but it says Mission Truth.
And we got we can do coffee cups too, and
I have a.
We'll be putting stuff up on the website.
I have a Stanley Cup.
Things go. Yeah, I've got one.
Whatever it's called. It's really cool.
So you know, if you want to rep Mission Truth, go ahead. We can get you that.
And like and subscribe. We are on YouTube.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, it is weird to see myself on YouTube. By the way, I've watched it.
I've gotten used to it now.
So
we live in that kind of world today, man. Everybody's got a podcast.
Everybody's got a podcast. So if you are watching, we thank you for watching. Yep. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have a comment, leave a comment.
Yeah. Like and subscribe.
You like and subscribe, yes.
Yay.
And as we always like to say when we finish up, keep seeking the truth and the truth will set you free. Yep. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.